This podcast is sponsored by Zain Bahrain, the innovative telecommunications company which aims to contribute to and spread awareness on current important matters and link it to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. The topics range from climate change within the MENA region, inclusivity, the youth, sustainable businesses, and more. By sponsoring this podcast, Zain aims to contribute to a meaningful conversation which shifts mindsets in order to develop and empower communities within Bahrain and the region. Thank you, Zain. This is Wafa Alobaidat. You're listening to the Women Power Podcast, a subsidiary platform to the Women Power Summit, the largest event in MENA, with the aim of empowering women and helping them achieve their absolute highest potential. Each week on the Women Power Podcast, you will hear honest, vulnerable, authentic, real conversations from inspiring women. These women will share their experiences and stories into what it takes to build a successful business and career. The podcast will share insight and inspiration and hopefully inspire action and lead change. 5 years ago, I signed up to this course called Vital Voices. It was a program designed by an organization in the US with the aim of trying to help or assist women who run small and medium-sized companies and helping them scale into larger organizations. To enter, I think you've had to, at the time, make at least a revenue of $300,000 and had a couple of employees. And, I fit the bill. It sounded like a very exciting program, and I signed up. One of the most exciting, so it was a year-long program, but one of the most exciting exercises that has literally changed my life was the personal mission statement activity or exercise. And I find myself using this exercise with so many of my colleagues and friends as a way to support them in defining what exactly do they want to be doing in this lifetime. We are here for such a short amount of time in this world. And I wonder, we're so different. Everybody's so different. There's only one me and only one you. And we're so individual. And I feel like we're meant to take space in this world for a reason. So I'll get back to the activity. The activity was so interesting. So in one of the modules, we had a coach explain that we needed to develop our personal mission statement. And they asked us, does anybody know what that is? And I always sit in the front of the class and I had my hand up and I would say, my business mission statement is, and he stopped me and he said, your personal mission statement, not your business or the company that you work in. What is your mission? And I just don't think I've ever been asked that question. So the first time I was asked that question was when I was about 27 or 28 years old. And it really took me off guard. I didn't know. I've always been used to doing, right? So we apply to colleges and we figure out the career based on demand or based on what our parents tell us to do or which industry can make us the most money. But we don't ask ourselves a different set of questions like, what do I enjoy doing that is not painful, that brings me joy? There must be something that I'm doing or that I do without knowing that, should the time pass, I don't feel the time. I'm enjoying it so much. We don't connect our careers with joy, or I think very few people do. I think here's also a huge misconception. It's when you ask yourself what you're good at, because just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you should be doing it. Because if we all did what we were good at, but didn't give us joy, you're equally in a very miserable job or starting a company that you hate. You could have studied law and, everyone's like, oh, you're a great lawyer. But actually, I don't like it. It doesn't matter if I'm good at it. It doesn't matter if I have a thriving career in it. It doesn't bring me joy. And I think that's when most career transitions happen, or that's when you decide to leave an organization for another, when you really start to look at your life to say, what do I love doing? What am I good at? And, there has to be an intersection of purpose, strength, as well as there has to be an intersection between purpose, strength, and joy. And I think that sweet spot is what we should be looking for, or what we're on a quest to find. It's crazy to me to think that, there is no timeline to this. So I hear this all the time as well. Like, I'm too old to shift. I'm not bothered. And you know what? If you're not bothered to transition into a space that gives you joy, that's probably not the right thing for you. Because I think when you figure out what gives you joy and how it aligns with your purpose, you'll be so excited to learn about this new subject. So going back to the personal mission activity, we had that one question to answer. We had some additional guiding questions, like, again, what gives you joy? What are you good at? What is something that is the combination of both? But what are you here meant to do? And the craziest thing about when I was asked this question is there was this, I know it sounds a little bit fluffy, but there was this inside voice inside of me that said, you're meant to help empower women. And I don't want to say help. And, I'm a bit wary of using the word empower as well, because my goal just was so clear to me that it's to help as much as I can to help women achieve their highest potential, whatever that may be. And it was this voice inside of me, and it came out like water. It was so clear. It was one of those moments where, because I don't think everything is usually very clear. And that was a huge moment of clarity for me. And for someone who's overwhelmed by this question, because it is an overwhelming question, I highly recommend you journal it and you apply Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way journaling method, which is you ask a question and then you journal freehand, using a pen and a paper, and you fill 3 pages no matter what, and you answer that question yourself, and you don't really think about what you're writing as much as you do write, and you fill the pages. And half the time, you discover all these incredible answers that are locked in your unconscious, or thoughts or ideas. So for me, I don't want to say I'm lucky, but I heard it really clearly. You're meant to empower women. You're meant to help women. You're meant to help women be their best selves. And I said that, so we took this personal mission activity very seriously. We spoke to a coach. We had a couple of sessions with a coach online. And then we had peer-to-peer discussion. So we were tied up with somebody else in our group, and we had to both discuss our personal mission statement and talk about why it was powerful or important for us, or why it was the right mission for us. And it was a very moving activity. It wasn't a rushed exercise. It lasted a couple of weeks. And at the time, I think when you're doing so much, and I'm sure we're all doing so much between, for those who are mothers raising children and dropping their kids to school and going to work and trying to, make lunch or pack lunches or trying to lose weight or going to the gym or whatever. And then taking the time, like the scheduled time, to honor this activity was very powerful for me. And my life has changed ever since. And one of the things I discussed with my coach was, I run a communications agency. What does my personal mission statement have to do with my work? Like, I didn't see a connection. And this is way before this podcast or the summit or the network or anything that we're building as a team. And she said, what are things that you feel you've done in the past that have been linked to this mission? And I said, I always hire women. I love working with women. I love getting women into leadership roles. I think that was something that kind of clicked, like, wow, that makes sense now. That's why I do that. I also realized, like, every book that I'm drawn to has a female or a woman on the cover. And I actually look for books with strong female leads. Same with movies. So I'm always on Netflix, and I'm always, before Netflix there were DVDs, but I'm always looking for real stories by real women that were inspiring. And a lot of the aspects of my life made sense. I remember when I was in 7th grade once, and I was in a department store with my mom, and I saw at the time the first female minister who was assigned to be the Minister of Health in Bahrain. And I ran up to her, like, I didn't even think. I went and I tapped her on the shoulder and I told her, I'm a huge fan. You're our first female minister. You inspire me. Like, I was fangirling her at the time. I'm only sharing the story because it makes sense. I was drawn to incredible, strong women who were shattering ceilings, who were doing incredible work. So I would like to share this activity with you. And, I did this course for a year, but that was my biggest takeaway. That's what I walked away with. And I value it so incredibly because I find that a lot of women I'm surrounded with have never asked themselves that question. And don't pressure yourself and don't stress about it. And it's a feel good exercise. You're meant to ask yourself very gently what that is. What is your personal mission statement? What is your purpose in this world? You're taking up space. Why are you taking up space? Why are you here? I feel like we're made so beautifully as people to do something, to add value somewhere. And what is that? Like, what are we meant to be doing? And I urge you to share this statement with friends and with colleagues and to have questions and conversations with people about this and share your personal mission statement with others. Hear yourself say, does it feel good? When you say, does it feel right? It should feel very close to your heart. It should feel good. It should be memorable. You should be able to remember it. That's how powerful it should be for you. And I think, we worked for, like I said, many weeks to keep refining and I urge you to have discussions about this with friends and with colleagues and to just keep refining it. It should be a statement. You shouldn't have to ramble. It should be very clear and concise and straight to the point, but it should feel right to you. So don't worry if you are crafting it and working it and reworking it, or there's different versions, as long as it's something you keep coming back to that's simple and clear. Other questions or other guiding questions are, what do I stand for? What do I believe in? What don't I want to compromise on? There's only one me. What is my message? So these are all fantastic questions to think about and to journal. So I'm a huge fan of journaling. Journaling has seriously changed. Journaling has changed my life. I'm a huge fan of, I just mentioned her earlier, but Julia Cameron, this author, wrote this amazing book called The Artist's Way. You can find it everywhere on Audible, in your local bookstore. You can order it online. And The Artist's Way has unlocked my creativity, but has established a daily journaling routine for myself. So what I do is I write 3 pages every day, freehand. Julia says we should be writing our morning pages like we're having an affair. So there is no right or wrong time to do it. You do it, you fit it into your schedule and you do your 3 pages. And it's been such a anchor because I have never failed to miss a day. And even when I do, it's okay. I just pick myself up again and I start writing. But I write without thinking. I write unconsciously almost. I write my thoughts, my fears. Sometimes I write a to-do list. Like I just fill those 3 pages. But there are days where if I feel stuck or I'm challenged, I do ask a question in my morning pages, like, what is my purpose? And then I journal the answer. And what's been so crazy is just the amount of answers or solutions or truths that I have inside of me, where I don't need external advice sometimes or mentoring as much as I need to also look within myself. It's all in there somewhere and it just comes out when I free write. So I do urge you to pick that up as an activity. Now, once that's clear for you, so let's say, you've asked yourself that question, you have journaled it, you're talking to your friends about it, your mom or your dad, your colleagues, you're asking people, what is your personal mission statement? And they're telling you or, and it's on your mind. So let's say you're getting somewhere, like there is some progress. How I felt after I found my purpose is, like I said, a lot of things I've done and decisions I've made makes a lot of sense. Not only does it make a lot of sense, but I feel so much more anchored. I feel so much more rooted. I feel I found my footing. And once I was rooted, my life became so much more clear, but also much more exciting because now I know I'm on this lifelong mission to do the best that I can to fulfill that prophecy or to fulfill that purpose. And all of a sudden you start, things either appear or you look for the things that can tie back into your work. So all of a sudden I'm finding myself reading literature by feminist authors. Like, I'm excited now because I now know what my life's goal is, or my journey till the very end is. So I think I'm on a learning journey equally so in parallel to achieve that mission. And I don't even know if there is an end line. I just know that I'm interested in the subject matter. So I found myself signing up to all these workshops and courses and talking to women talking to people with a much more defined point of view. And now all of a sudden I stand for something. And we talked about there's only one version of you in this world, right? You're so special. Like, every single person is so special. And being authentic is just being you every day, like showing up as yourself, not trying to be anybody but you. And it's so much more powerful when you are living your purpose authentically, because then you're living your life in a way that suits you, that gives you joy, that makes you happy, and that also creates a space for you in this world. So when I spoke to my coach about, the fact that I had a communications agency serving clients, but I felt this deep-rooted mission to assist or help women be the best version of themselves, I asked her, how can I bring my mission into my work? So other than hiring women, she said, have you tried to look at your clients and see how you can make them the best version of themselves or their companies? Or have you thought about, creating a fund where you support female business owners, or you invest, or, you have a communications firm? Have you thought about funding or, giving packages or discounts to startups who are female led? And, we were brainstorming all these amazing ideas to bring purpose into my work. And then that became really exciting because I adapted it, or I shifted it to also suit my work needs. And I think this is a great way to look at it if you work in an organization or a corporate company where, the mission of the business is not necessarily your personal mission. And that's really normal, and that's okay. And that's, in a certain sense, obvious, because, if a company has 400, 500 people, you can't expect those 400 or 500 people's personal mission statement to be tied to the company they work in. But I do think the people who do have that probably rise to the top so much better because they're living the company's mission daily through their work, because it's tied to them in a personal way. But for somebody who feels a little bit disconnected, who looks at their job as a job, I think bringing your purpose into your work can help you figure out, how do I create different avenues or a space for me within my work to practice my mission or to fulfill my mission? And I think, doing things like joining committees where, the mission is tied closer to you, or finding creative space where you can do it, or, pitching an idea to your boss or your manager to say, listen, I love my job, or, I love my work, or, this is a job, it's fine. But for you to say, I have an idea, this is important to me. Can I test this here? Can I launch something here that's connected to your personal mission statement? So if your passion is to read, for example, you could launch a corporate book club within your organization and get them to fund it. You could, if your job is to, if your personal mission is to create art and to create beautiful things and to share it with the world, could you go to the social committee and ask for a budget to get people to do more creative classes? Could you, teach creative sessions or classes in your organization? Could you bring the creative aspect of your work into your training when, I'm sure that most organizations offer training and learning. Are you able to get that covered by your HR manager? So I think there are so many ways to bridge your personal mission statement and your purpose with your work, especially if you're in corporate or in a startup. And I think we're such problem solvers by nature. We love to solve things. We love to learn new things. So that shouldn't really stop you from living your personal mission. And I think once people figure them out, and I think, one of the most powerful things I've learned about this podcast, just interviewing more than 47 women so far, is they all go through this light bulb moment where they figure out their mission and they shift careers, or they transition, or they just change the way that they do certain things because they have to do it. And once you're aware of it, your life is forever changed. Once things get crystallized and clear in that way, and there's an anchor, it's so much easier to make decisions, and you're able to eliminate what doesn't serve you versus what serves you. So this brings me to the subject of intention. And I think once the personal mission statement and the purpose is clear, your intentions become clear. So you approach everything with the goggles of your mission statement. So if you're meant to help people be the best version of themselves and give them all the opportunities, your intention is something you can practice every day. And in all your dealings, you're trying to help the person you are working with or serving, whether it's a supplier, whether it's a client, whether it's a business partner or a co-founder. All you're doing is helping people be their best selves. So that's how I found that every day I wake up, and that's my intention. It's, this strong overarching cloud now in my life, or this bridge, there's a trickle effect. It affects all my dealings. It affects my communication, and everything now pivots in order to fulfill that manifestation. I want to transition into the subject of believing in yourself. And this is so incredibly important, because you can have the biggest mission in the world, or you can have your personal mission statement super clear. But if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your capabilities, you won't be able to manifest anything good in your life. And I find that if you are as lucky as me, you would be empowered by a parent. So my mom empowered me at a very young age to believe in myself so much. She believed in me so much that I eventually believed in myself. I think if you're really lucky, you have two parents who really believe in you. What does believing in you mean? Believing in you is getting behind you, playing on your team. They're not against you. Sometimes we look at our teachers in school like they're against us, they're grading us, they're, marking us. You look at them like your coach, like they're supporting you, like, if you make a mistake, they're not on your case, they're not punishing you, they're forgiving, they're loving, they love you. So there's a lot of acceptance of who you are, but also they believe in your potential, right? So when you're young and scrawny and skinny and you're still so new to the world, they look at you with eyes and their communication and body language wise, and you can tell that, my mom or my dad or my brother or my cousin or my grandmother is rooting for me. That's someone who believes in you. And I find that if you're quite lucky, you grow up in an environment where your team or your family, who are your team, are rooting for you. And sometimes you just need one person. I'm talking about the really exceptional cases of having the whole team rooting for you. It's very American and very Hollywood, you know what I mean? And, it's those movies where you have the parents supporting the kid when they're playing football or when they're at a competition. And that's not always the case anywhere else. So when someone believes in you, when they get behind you, when they listen to you, when you speak, they feel like, wow, you have value. They're listening with their eyes and they're fully present with you. I think you're much more able to believe in yourself and have the confidence to believe in yourself. However, what if you don't have any of that? What if you don't have someone who has believed in you? What if you grew up in a household where I'm not saying you grew up in a bad household where you were told off and yelled at, but you grew up in a household where there was nobody behind you to say, what do you enjoy doing? Or you're curious about this? Okay, let's invest in you doing it. Somebody who invested in the things you were curious about or excited about, for you to know that your joy has value, and for you to place some weight on it and to understand that things that make me happy are important, not just to me, but to my family. And here's the tricky part. You figure out how to surround yourself with people who believe in you, And a good assessment is just taking a good look around and saying, okay, how many of my friends, cousins, family, whoever, colleagues at work believe in me? How many people get behind me who, if I make a mistake, they're not angry about it and they're like, it's okay and we'll try again and you'll fail and it's fine. And, who can you talk to and be vulnerable with to say, I'm lost or I'm confused or I'm scared? And they remove that fear. They're constantly there to remove all the fears from you. You'll be fine. It's okay. You'll get back up. We need these kind of these reassuring words. We need somebody all the time, especially when we're younger, telling us, it's okay. You've got this. It's okay. You've got this, until we're programmed to think so ourselves. But even as adults, I find that if you don't have that when you're younger, you're searching for it when you're older and you're looking at your friends and you're like, am I doing okay? Do I look good? Is this okay? And it's always with this sense of fear, like, oh, I failed, I can't do this. And we need constant spoon feeding of reassurance in order, and really it comes back to the fact that we just don't believe in us and who we are. So let's say you are surrounded with people that don't believe in you, put you down, pick fights with you, dramatize things. When you share something good with them, they ignore you, or they just kind of underplay it. They don't clap for you. They don't applaud for you. Those are the people you need to really set, I don't want to say remove them, because I edit out anyone who doesn't believe in me. But if I also don't believe in that person, as in if I'm not being the best version of myself with a friend, I shouldn't be in their lives. For some reason, the chemistry isn't working. You know what I mean? There's something there where I don't feel good about it, or for whatever reason. So I'm not saying it as a victim, like if it happens to you, but also if you are not being good to someone, if you're not supporting someone, and if someone calls you or your friend calls you and they're like, I'm not happy, I'm not happy with this, or I did this, and you find yourself not being happy for this person, you should really question, why do you feel that way? But also, is this the kind of friendship that person wants from you? Do you know what I mean? Like, surround yourself and, ask the universe. And I'm a big believer in manifestation and just journaling these things, like, where can I find great people who believe in me? And then write a dream list, write a wish list. Describe the type of friendships you want to have. Describe and if you don't want to journal this is fine, but even dreaming or visualizing the type of relationships you want to have. Imagine your perfect boss and how they would treat you when you did something good, or when you came up with an idea, or when you live your work, live your purpose or live your mission. Imagine how people would react to it. And, I do tend to believe, I actually truly believe that the more crystal clear those visualization exercises are, the more likely you are to draw them to you. So I don't want to get too much into how to surround yourself with like-minded people. I have a separate podcast you can listen to about creating your own tribe that has been really popular, thankfully, which gets into this in a lot more detail. How do you surround yourself with the right people that believe in you, clap for you, and are there for you? Because I think that's a very essential strategy, especially in the earlier part of your career, when you're trying to figure things out and you're trying to, again, find your space in the world, or you feel like you haven't still found that personal mission statement of yours. But what I'm really excited about for this episode is to talk about how you can believe in yourself. So my story is different, right? So my story is my mom believed in me so much. And, as a young teenager, I would call her, especially when I was in students abroad, I'd call her and be like, I'm scared and I'm going to fail. And she was always reassuring me. She had my back. She supported me. And something incredible happened, I would say, probably in my mid-20s, or towards, I'd say 22 to 25. I began to speak to myself the way my mother speaks to me in my head. I'll give you an example. So in the past, if I was scared, or if, I would go into a big meeting, I would call her and be like, oh my God, I'm terrified. Or I'd be like, what's your advice? Or I need to hear words of wisdom, or I need to hear someone cheer for me to say, you know what, you'll be fine. And even if if you suck at this, you'll be okay. You'll bounce back. You'll learn. Good for you. Then I realized, how do you get to believe in yourself. So I noticed that with my mom, so eventually I started going to meetings and I was like, I would hear this voice inside of my head that would say, you've got this and it's okay and you're awesome and you'll nail it. And even if you don't, it's fine, you'll learn. So I was mirroring or repeating the things that she has basically brainwashed me with. And, I felt like there was this huge transition in our relationship, which is she went from manager to consultant or advisor. So there was that shift happened then. And I think that shift made her very sad because she was so needed by me. And then she was no longer needed or not needed as much because I took her method and her kindness and gentleness to me and her belief in me through communication. And I started implementing it to myself independently. Now, I've had someone tell me pretty much all my life that I was meant or destined to do great things and that I was, a good person and that I was trying my best and that it was okay to fail and that it was okay to ask questions, that it was okay to learn and it was okay to put myself out there. And someone who saw me as an equal to adults at a young age, so much so that growing up, I would feel very much like an equal to anybody I was sitting across the table with, whether it was a CEO or a minister or a founder of an organization or anybody that was considered, for example, like a person with high status. I really would walk into a room thinking they're my equal, and that doesn't come from an arrogant place. It comes from a place of belief that I am, my mind is full of knowledge and I'm able to add value. And I have something to add to the conversation and I have the confidence in myself to deliver my message. So having someone invest so much of their time in me to do that, for me in my early 20s to be able to do that independently to myself was extremely powerful. Now, let's imagine you didn't have that investment. Nobody invested in you. Okay, let's cry it out for a second. Let's be a victim. Okay, I never had that. That sucks for me. Now let's get over that. Put it and park it to the side and let's focus on how can we independently believe in ourselves. And the power here is so large for you because you know that when someone walks into a meeting or when you've met somebody who believes in themselves, you can feel it. You can feel it. You can feel that they are walking higher, like they're walking with their shoulders back. They are confident. You can feel it. You can feel someone believing in themselves, owning the room, the way they sit, the way they move, the way they talk. They know they've gotten behind themselves. And when you've met someone, because I know you have, that is insecure, worried, scared, full of fear, and has no belief in themselves. Now, if I told you had to hire somebody with the same amount of skills, but somebody who believed in themselves and you can feel it, and somebody who doesn't, who would you hire? Who would you want to work with? Who would you want to be friends with? Obviously, the person who feels good about who they are. Obviously, the person who's done the work on themselves and somebody who believes in who they are, right? And most likely, those are the people that get promoted. They're the ones that get, attention. They're the ones that draw the great contracts to them. They're the ones that get the opportunities because you want to work with people who are self-assured. هذا البودكاست برعاية زين البحرين، شركة الاتصالات الرائدة التي تهدف لخلق وعي ومواضيع مهمة لعصرنا الحالي وربطها بأهداف التنمية المستدامة SDGs. المواضيع تتراوح من النقاش عن تغيير المناخ في العالم العربي، الشمولية، جيل الشباب، الأعمال المستدامة وغيرها. برعاية البودكاست تتمثل مهمة زين في توفير تواصل هادف يغير بعض المناهج الفكرية لتطوير وتمكين المجتمعات في البحرين والمنطقة المجاورة. So how do we do that? How do we get to a place, we've skipped this part where I didn't have this part where someone believed in me. How do I start believing in myself? So the number one thing to do that has also equally changed my life has been affirmations. Because I think even when you do feel good about who you are and you feel defined in your purpose and anchored, I feel that affirmations still keep topping it up. Like you're still topping up. It's the same as exercise. Like you don't exercise once forever. It's something you do daily. It's like a muscle, right? So I think the affirmations continue to get you to believe in yourself. You continue to top yourself up. What are affirmations? So affirmations refer primarily to the practice of positive thinking and self-empowerment. So it's fostering a belief that a positive mental attitude supported by affirmations will achieve success in anything. And I'm a huge fan of affirmations because I think they rewire your thoughts. They rewire the voice in your head that says, so if you haven't had someone affirm or create these affirmations for you, you need to create them yourself. So that's, I think, a great starting point. So I tend to pick a topic every day and then I create 20 to 30 affirmations. There's books that you can read. There's apps now that have affirmations and then that you can read. There are little cards that you can buy from your local bookstore that are, positive affirmations. And you repeat them like morning, you can repeat them in the evening. You can repeat one sentence. I just tend to read out based on what I feel I need on that day. I either write or find them online or read them, and I repeat these affirmations. So I start by saying, so let's say today I'm not feeling productive at all. I don't want to work, or I can't seem to find the space or the time to work. So I'd start by saying, I'm highly productive. I'm going to be really productive today. I'm a very motivated and driven person. And I just repeat all these reassuring statements in my mind, or I write them down in the morning and I set the intention. And the affirmations keep me positive and rewire the way that I think about something. So I would pick some on, affirmations on being kind to yourself, affirmations on, wealth. You know what I mean? So like wealth is really powerful. You could be like, you might have scarcity mentality and you'd be worried about money. And I would say, I'm a wealthy person. I attract wealth. I attract money. I attract contracts. I attract business. And I feel that choosing the positive statement, in that tone works. But it has to be repetitive. So affirmations is like a quick, it's like a speedy access to getting you to believe in yourself. Start reading out your affirmations, buy the right content for you to, if you don't have time to write them or think them or come up with them, buy the literature and start reading it in whatever format that suits you, whether it's an app, a book, or the cards. But start the practice of affirmations. I would say the other thing is to just be aware of how you talk to yourself. We are very hard on ourselves as women. That's also a very common theme or thread in all the interviews that I've done. We need to be so much more kinder. So, just saying, you forgive yourself if you've done something, or you're like, oh my God, I ate this piece of cake. Like, I forgive myself. It's okay, Wafa, you really wanted something sugary, and it's okay, just treat yourself and get back on track. And this is something I'm really guilty of. I'm really hard on myself all the time. And I've had friends say, you're really hard on yourself. You need to stop like bashing yourself. So, if I don't remind myself of it, or I'm not aware, I can easily fall back into it again. But how do you become your biggest cheerleader? How do you become your best friend? And it's crazy that sometimes we would give our friends advice that we wouldn't give ourselves. So if your friend came up to you today and was like, I'm such a bad person, I messed up, I made a mistake at work, what would you say? It's fine, you'll be okay. Let's go get a coffee, you'll relax afterwards, it's okay, you'd give them a hug. But we wouldn't do that to our own selves. So in our own selves, we're bashing ourselves. Like, I made a mistake and how could I do this? Like, this is literally what the sound in my head does, like shouts and yells. But I wouldn't be kind to myself. I wouldn't give myself the advice I would give a friend. So change the narration in your mind. And that's your ego, right? So your ego is your fake self. It's sitting there like, you suck and you're not good at this and everybody can see through you. And, you need to be aware like, wow, that's my ego. Okay, that's not me, because I do believe in myself. And I don't want to get into the whole ego side of things, but I do recommend reading a life-changing book by Eckhart Tolle called A New Earth or The Power of Now. They both talk about the ego. It's that other voice in your head that's always putting you down, pointing out all the pitfalls, getting into fights with people, that angry person inside your brain that is not really you. And I think, again, it's not resisting it or stopping it, but it's just being aware of it gets it to go away. So I've had a lot of friends who simply do not do the work on themselves. So they call me every day and, they almost want me to be what my mom was to me, right? They want reassurance, they want guidance. And, they obviously haven't had that growing up. So they latch on to the next reassuring voice and they call you and they ask you for they ask you questions. What am I supposed to do? And how do you think I should solve this? And how, I don't feel good. And they're always looking for answers from external guides. But the problem with that is, it's great to find someone who can do that for you, but it's not sustainable in the long run because that person could go away. They could have a baby and get really busy. They could have their own lives going on. They might not always be available to you to constantly reassure you on a daily basis and make you feel good about yourself and be that person that believes in you that maybe you've missed out on in your life. And I've had to have discussions with people to say, listen, I have tried my best to give you the books to read, the affirmations, the journaling. You're not doing the work. And I can no longer repeat this activity with you simply because I have priorities, I have a family, and I need to also focus on myself. So I can no longer give you that hour a day that you need to feel good about yourself. So, they're very tough conversations. They haven't always ended well. And I think if you can recognize that, there is something there that nobody can fill but yourself, like that's work you need to do for yourself, you're on the right track. So do the work. What is more important? I don't know anything more important than working on yourself, on your mind, on self-love, on self-care. And, for somebody who's very hard, like I'm very hard on myself and it's hard for me to schedule those moments in sometimes, but it makes the world's biggest difference. It takes a couple of minutes to be aware of something or to meditate or to self-talk or to read my affirmations, but it sets the tone for my whole day. And shifting from victim mode, which is, I don't know how to do this and I'm confused and I'm lost, into more of a, I need to work on myself. I need to love myself. I need to figure myself out. And that might mean investing in a therapist. Like you should listen to, we covered the aspect of therapy in the Noor Tahini episode and the Ala Balkhi episode, both very powerful episodes about the value of therapy and realizing, okay, I'm doing the affirmations, I'm doing the self-love talk. I keep coming back to the fact that I don't believe in myself and I think I'm an imposter and I'm not, it's much deeper than, none of the stuff is solving it for me. I still feel insecure. I don't feel rooted. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. I don't feel good. In which case, talk to somebody who's more specialized in the space. And I'm a big believer in online therapy and I wrote about it in my newsletter and it changed my life. And I did it online with a therapist through an app. The Sheikh Intisar episode, which is a beautiful episode, talks about how she gives her body a hug every morning, or how Zainab Selbi meditates on her pupil and shows gratitude to the very fine parts of herself that she loves. Nada Alawi touches every single body part in her body and tells it that she loves it. And this is something I started doing even with something like my cesarean scar, which I think is just atrocious. I thank it and I touch it and I say, thank you. Like, you're so beautiful. Because of you, I was able to have a baby. And I know it sounds awkward when I say it in the podcast. It makes a lot more sense when I say it in my head. But I think this idea of just like loving yourself is so connected, and being kind to yourself is so connected to purpose, and giving yourself permission to live your purpose and to say, I believe in myself and I believe this is the right thing for me to do. And I believe I'm on this quest to live my mission every day. And if you're lucky enough to find it, as early as you do, then what a beautiful way to experience your life, living out the reason why you're here. I haven't done a vision board in a very long time, but once you figure out your personal mission statement, what a great exercise would it be for you to visualize it actually using Pinterest, or, people still have these these workshops where they cut things and things from newspapers and they put things together to manifest their actual vision. And having that and looking at it every day is very powerful. And it reminds me of the zebra test. So the zebra test is, if I'm telling you don't think about zebras, don't think about zebras, you are now thinking about zebras. So it's very similar to the vision board. The more you look at it, the more you will think about it, and it'll come to you, and you're attracting it as well to your life. I think to wrap up, as a manager, as a business owner, no one will trust you or believe in you or sign a check over to you if you don't believe in yourself. There are people out there that are not as super skilled as we think they are, but because they carry themselves well, because they're rooted, because they believe in themselves, because their personal mission statement is clear, they own the room, they dominate that space, and people believe in them, they listen to what they have to say, they sign checks over to them. And when I say sign checks over to them, I mean, when they're trying to raise funds, or when they're trying to ask for a business, or they're trying to sell, or they're trying to pivot a whole organizations. When they're at that decision-making level, they are comfortable in their own skin, and you can feel, without even sometimes someone speaking, I believe and I trust this person, or they're a fraud and they don't believe in themselves. And here's the biggest thing, nobody will ever believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Do the exercise, the personal mission exercise. Talk about it with your friends and your colleagues. Make it a part of your daily discussions. Refine it. And then once you figure out what that one key statement is, really live it. Figure out, how do I bring this into my work every day? Or how do I bring this into my company every day? Or how do I, in my case, we built a whole division and we've integrated this very purpose in the lives of everybody in our organization. And we are living this every day through this podcast, through the Women Power Summit, and through many new initiatives that we are creating as well. So if you feel like, you have real challenges doing this exercise, and you're really struggling to get behind yourself and to give yourself permission to live your personal mission statement, invest in getting the right people to support you and help you. Invest in online therapy, invest in mentors. And it's something you have to do daily. And we're all working on it. There are days where I'm horrible to myself and so mean to myself. And I'm so unforgiving, and I have to be more careful, and I'm more aware, and I forgive myself, and I try to be better the next day. There are days where I feel like a fraud and an imposter, and I have to be like, no, Wafa, it's okay. You've proved yourself, you've done this and you've done that, and I have to remind myself what I'm grateful for and what I was able to achieve. There are days where I question decisions I've made. There are days where, I'm like, is this even my purpose? Or what if it changes? And that's also okay, because I don't think our personal mission statement is permanent. I do believe that it kind of anchors or resonates with you, but I also feel that can change. You could be living your purpose in something, and then you could be inspired and moved by an experience, and then shift completely and do something else and be like, you know what? I thought this was my purpose, or this was my purpose. Today, I've changed direction and I want to do, whatever it is that you want to do. So I think that it's okay, as per your age or per experience, for that personal mission statement to change. I don't think for some people, it could be a long lasting journey. And for others, it could be something that's important to them right now and serves them right now. So also be kind to yourself if you feel like, okay, I just, I'm not invested, or this is not what I think I want to be doing. So be kind to yourself. Get behind yourself so others can get behind you. And that way you are your biggest cheerleader. And actually, that's what I hope for you. I hope that you recognize that you're your biggest cheerleader. You are your biggest supporter. You are your best friend. You are the person that wants to root for you. You are the person you should be investing in the most. It's all there. It's all in you. And getting behind yourself is beautiful. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening to an episode of the Women Power Podcast. And thank you for downloading and streaming our podcast every week. If you love what you've heard, tag us on Instagram and follow the Women Power Podcast and Women Power Summit account for more information on our next episode. Please leave a rating review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps other women discover the show. That's it from me. See you next week.